Hello everyone and welcome to the new session of the biology lecture series. And today we'll be solving the NCERT Exemplar questions for the topic sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So this chapter is included in class 12th biology book. And I would like to mention that all the questions here are completely NCERT based. So let's start with the first type of question, which are multiple choice questions. Okay, so I would like to mention here that all the questions, all the NCERT exemplar questions have been divided into these categories. First one is the MCQ, second one will be the very short answer type, and then we'll be solving the short answer type, and in the end we'll be solving the long answer type questions. So let's start with the multiple choice question first. So first question is, among the terms listed below, those that are not technically correct names of the floral whorls are, okay, so they have given you these options: androecium, second option is carpel, third option is corolla, and fourth option is sepal. So you must be knowing about the floral whorls. Okay, floral whorls, outermost is the calyx. Outermost is the calyx, which is what? Which is the collection of what? Sepals. Or calyx represents sepals. Then we have corolla. Corolla is the collection of petals. Okay, then inside to corolla or the inner whorl is known as androecium. Okay, which represents the stamens. And then we have the gynoecium. And gynoecium is the female reproductive part, and it represents the, you can say, carpel or the pistil. Okay, so these are the floral whorls. So here again the options are androecium, which represents the stamen, carpel, which represents the gynoecium. Okay, so we have to write gynoecium instead of carpel if we are talking about the floral whorls. Corolla is again a floral whorl, it represents the petals, and here it should be calyx. Then we will call it as a floral whorl. Okay, now these are the options you have to select from these. First option is 1 and 4th, second is 3rd and 4th, C option is 2nd and 4th, and D option is 1 and 2nd. Now what is the correct answer here? Option C is the correct answer. Now all the 4 whorls of the plant with their relative position in the flower can be indicated through the following diagram. Okay, let's see what the diagram is. So this is the typical flower. Okay, and here you can see this is the pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. Okay, then the outermost whorl is the calyx. Here you can see calyx, which is what? Collection of the sepals. Then inner to calyx is corolla. Okay, corolla is what? It is the collection of petals. Okay, here you can see 5 petals here. And then inner to corolla is androecium. So these are the stamens. Okay, stamens are the male reproductive organ in flower. Okay, it consists of anther and the filament. So this is the anther. Okay, and this is the filament. Okay, filament. Then innermost whorl is known as gynoecium. So this is the carpel. Okay, and it is made up of ovary, style, and stigma. So this is the ovary. Okay, this one is the style, which is nothing but a tube, and the uppermost region is known as stigma, which is the receptive part. It receives the pollen grains. So these are the whorls of the flower. Alright, now Sepals, as I've already told you, collectively form a whorl known as calyx, while technically the carpel, if you talk about the carpel, it is known as the gynoecium. Okay, and we can circle calyx also. This is also the whorl. The floral whorls formed by petals, okay, is known as corolla, and the whorls formed by stamens is known as androecium. So these are the four whorls of the flower. Now let's talk about question number 2. The embryo sac is to ovule as is to the anther. Okay, so we have to answer here in the question they are saying embryo sac is to ovule. Okay, now what anther represents, okay, or they have given you the options. Okay, anther represents stamen, filament, pollen grain, or androecium. What is anther related to? Okay, like within the ovule, embryo sac is present. Okay, so if you draw a diagram of the ovule, again I'm drawing a rough diagram here. Ovule looks like this. These are the integuments. Okay, usually 2 integuments are present, which later on forms the seed coat. Okay, these are the integuments. Okay, inside this integument is present the embryo sac. And what is embryo sac made up of? This is the egg cell and 2 synergies are present. So this is the micropylar end. Okay, this is the micropylar end. This is the chalazal end. This is the chalazal end. Okay, in the center is present the egg cell. Here the egg cell is present. Here 2 polar nuclei is present, and here these antipodals are present. So these are the antipodal cell. Okay, and these are the 2 polar nuclei. These one are the polar nuclei. Okay, so embryo sac is present within this. This is entire structure is known as embryo sac. Okay, which is, you can see, 8 celled and 7 nucleus. Now, what is the answer here? So I've given you a thinking process here. This will help you understand this question better. Now, ovule, if we talk about the ovule, okay, it is the ovule within which a single megaspore mother cell differentiate into 4 megaspores. Okay, so initially there is 1 megaspore mother cell, okay, inside the ovule, which differentiate into or divides into 4 megaspores. Out of these, only 1 megaspore is functional, okay, and develops into the embryo sac. Embryo sac we have already discussed. Embryo sac is also known as the female gametophyte, and the other 3 megaspores degenerate. Okay, now the correct answer here is C. The pollen grain represents the male gametophyte. This you have to remember. The pollen grains, they are known as the male gametophyte. As the anthers mature and they dehydrate, the microspores dissociate from each other and develop into what? Pollen grains. So you can say pollen grains, they develop inside the anther. Okay, and initially what happens? Microspores are present within the anther and the microspore dissociate from each other and develop into pollen grains. So embryo sac is to ovule. So pollen grains is to anther. So this is the correct answer here. Now let's talk about question number 3. In a typical complete bisexual and hypogynous flower, okay, the arrangement of the floral whorls on the thalamus from the outermost to the innermost is, okay, so again they are talking about the floral whorls. We have already discussed about this in the first question. There are 4 floral whorls. Okay, outermost is the calyx, inner to calyx is corolla, the inner to corolla is androecium, Okay. And the innermost is known as gynoecium. So these are the 4 floral whorls. Okay. Now that talking about a typical flower, okay, which is bisexual, okay, contains both the sex organs, means both androecium and the gynoecium, and it is hypogynous, means ovary is superior here. So these are the options: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Okay, calyx, it is the outermost. And in the question they are asking from the outermost to the innermost. So calyx is outermost, then we have corolla, then we have androecium, then the innermost is gynoecium. So this seems like the correct answer. Let's have a look at the rest of the options. Calyx, corolla, gynoecium, and androecium. Okay, which is not correct. Then gynoecium, androecium, corolla, and calyx, again not correct. Then option D, androecium, gynoecium, corolla, and calyx, which is also not correct. So what should be the answer to this question? Option number A is the correct answer. In a typical complete bisexual and hypogynous flower, the arrangement of floral whorls on the thalamus from the outermost to innermost is, so what should be the answer? Calyx, which is the whorl of sepals, it is the outermost. Then we have the corolla, which is the whorl of petals, which is present inside the calyx, means to the inner side of the calyx. Then the third whorl is made up of the androecium, which is nothing but the whorls of stamens. And the fourth whorl is known as the gynoecium, which is the whorl of pistils. Okay, so it is present in the center of the flower forming innermost whorl. So this is the correct answer for this question. Now let's talk about the question number 4. A dichotomous plant bears flowers. Okay, they're talking about a dichotomous plant that bears flowers but never produces fruits and seeds. The most probable cause for the above situation is, okay, they've given you this option: plant is dioecious and bears only pistillate flower. Pistillate flower means it has only pistils, or you can say carpels, means it is a female flower. Okay, because pistils and carpels are female reproductive structures. And the plant is dioecious. What does dioecious represents? It represents the unisexual condition. So dioecious means that the male and reproductive organs or structures are present on different plants. This is what dioecious is. Okay. Male, which is represented by this male and female reproductive structures are present on different plant. Okay, this is known as dioecious plants. Okay. Now let's have a look at the second option. Plant is dioecious and bear both pistillate and staminate flowers. Means it has pistil and it has stamens also. Staminate means it contains stamens, means the, okay, if the flower has the pistil, it is known as female flower. If the flower has stamens, it is known as the staminate flowers. Okay. Now option number C, plant is monoecious, means both the reproductive organs are present in the same plant. Okay. Both the reproductive organs are present in the same plant. Option D is plant is dioecious and bears only staminate flowers. Okay. Means only the male flowers. Now, I've again given you this thinking process. So here, it is saying here that the fertilization of male and female gamete is essential for the formation of fruits and the seeds. This you already know. Fruit which develops from what? Ovary. And seed which develops from the ovules So ovary develop into fruit and ovules develop into seed after the fertilization. Okay, after the fertilization, which is nothing but the union of both male and female gametes. Now, usually the male gamete constitute the motile structure. Usually, the male gamete is motile, while the female gamete is large and non-motile. Okay, so this is clear. Now, answer to this question is option number D. Okay. So, in dioecious plant, the unisexual male flower is staminate, that is bearing stamens only, while the female is pistillate, which means bearing pistils. Now, for the production of fruits and the seeds, I've already told you, fertilization is necessary. Fertilization must take place, which is possible only in the presence of both male and the female flower. So, both male and female flowers should be available, should be present, and then only fertilization can take place. Because male flower, what it will produce? It will produce the male gametes, okay, or you can say it will produce pollens or pollen grain, which carry, if you talk about angiosperms or the flowering plant, it carries two male gametes. Okay, pollen produce two male gametes, and the female flowers, what it will produce? It will produce the egg. So the male gamete will fuse with the egg, and then it will form the zygote and embryo. So this is clear. Now, when the plant is dioecious, mean when the female and the male reproductive structures are present on the different plant, it will give rise to following situations. Now, let's have a look at these situations. So, if the plant is dioecious and bears only pistillate flower, fertilization can take place with the help of the pollinators. Okay. So, what does this mean? If the plant is dioecious, means consists of only one reproductive structure, either male or female, and it bears female flowers only. Okay, so female, we have seen the gamete produced in the female flowers is stationary, it is non-motile. Okay, so it cannot travel, but another male flower which produces pollen can fertilize this, okay, egg from this female flower. Okay, so that's what it is saying. If the plant is dioecious and bear only pistillate flower, fertilization can take place with the help of the pollinators. So pollinators such as, you can say, wind or water. Okay, so these are abiotic pollinators. Apart from this, there are some biotic pollinators, okay, such as insects. Okay, so these insects or these wind and water, they can carry the pollens from the another male flower, and then it can carry these pollens to the female flower which bears the pistil. Okay, and then fertilization can take place. Now, if the plant is dioecious and bears only staminate flowers, means it bears only male flowers with stamens, then what will happen? Fertilization cannot take place because the female gamete is non-motile. It cannot reach the male gametes. So the female gamete is non-motile, which can't reach the male gamete in order to fuse with it. So there is no fertilization, and without fertilization, there is no seed set, or you can say there is no fruit set, because fruit and the seed develop after fertilization. Okay. Now, when the plant is monoecious, means carrying both stamen and the pistil together in the same plant, it may lead to self-fertilization and production of the seeds. So this is clear. If the plant is monoecious, both the reproductive organs are present. If both the reproductive organs are present, male gamete is also present, female gamete is also present, and they can self-fertilize with each other. How can they can self-fertilize? By self-pollination. Okay, self-pollination can take place. Self-pollination is also known as autogamy. Now, what does autogamy means? Autogamy means pollens from the male flower is transferred to the stigma of the female flower. Okay, and these two flowers are present on the same plant. Okay, this is known as autogamy. Now let's talk about question number 5. Okay, the outermost and the innermost wall layer of the microsporangium in an anther are respectively. So they are talking about the microsporangium which is present in the anther. Alright, now let's see. The outermost, they are asking about the innermost wall layer. So first option is endothecium and tapetum. Option B is epidermis and endodermis. Option C is epidermis and middle layer. Option D is epidermis and tapetum. Now, here the correct answer is option D. Now, why this option is correct? So, a typical microsporangium is generally surrounded by 4 wall layers. There are 4 layers present in the microsporangium. Outermost is the epidermis, okay, which is the outermost protective layer. Then we have the endothecium, okay, and then there is a middle fibrous layer, also known as the middle layer, and the innermost is the tapetum, which is the innermost nutritive layer. Alright, so how does microsporangium look like? So I'm drawing a rough diagram here. So this is the epidermis, outermost. Okay, this represents epidermis. Inner to epidermis is the endothecium. Okay, so this is the endothecium. This is the endothecium. Then inner to endothecium is present the middle layer. Okay, so this is the middle layer. Middle layers. Okay, there are a lot of layers. This is known as the middle layer. These two. This is the middle layer. And the innermost is known as the tapetum. So we can draw tapetum like this. These kind of cells. These are tapetum. Okay. And inside to tapetum, here is one cell present which is known as the microspore, mother cell, which divides to form the microspores. Now let's talk about question number 6. During microsporogenesis, okay, means during formation of microspore, meiosis occurs in first is endothecium, second is microspore mother cell, third is microspore tetrad, and option D is pollen grains. Okay, so here the correct option is option B. This is the answer to this question. Now, why this is the answer? Now, as the anther develops, the microspore mother cell, okay, I've already shown you microspore mother cell in the previous question. Okay, the microspore mother cell of the sporogenous tissue undergoes meiotic division, means meiosis to form microspore tetrads. Okay, so here meiosis is happening, so microspore, these will be haploid. The microspore tetrad after dehydration is separated into pollen grains. Okay, then they form the pollen grains. And what is, if you talk about the endothecium, in the option they were mentioning endothecium. Endothecium, I've already explained you, is the layer present between the epidermis and the middle layer. And it is formed by the columnar cells. Okay, that's why correct answer is option B here. Okay. Now coming to question number 7. From among the sets of the terms given below, okay, so some terms have been given. You have to identify those that are associated with the gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part, okay, and it consists of what? It consists of pistil, or you can also say carpel. Okay, this represents the gynoecium. Now option A is stigma, ovule, embryo sac and placenta. Okay, you have to identify the terms which are associated with gynoecium. Then option B is thalamus, pistil, style and ovule. Okay. Option C is ovule, ovary, embryo sac and tapetum. Option D is ovule, stamen, ovary and embryo sac. Okay. Stamen here. Stamen is what? Male reproductive organ. Okay. Tapetum. What is tapetum? Tapetum we've already seen. This is one of the layers of the microsporangium. We have just seen. So if you know about these terms, you can easily answer this question. Okay. Thalamus is the swollen part of the flower. Okay. This is known as the thalamus. Okay. Pistil, you already know what is pistil. Okay. Style. Style is the part of the pistil, ovary, style and stigma. Okay. Then ovule. Ovule is present within the ovary. Okay. So what are the terms related to gynoecium? The correct answer is option A. The gynoecium represents the female reproductive part of the flower and consists of the pistil. Each pistil has three parts: stigma, style and ovary, and inside the ovarian cavity placenta is located. Okay. So you must be already knowing how a pistil look like. Okay. So it has a swollen base which is known as the ovary. Then there is a tube-like structure through which pollen tube travels, and this is the stigma, which is the receptive part. This is the style and this is the ovary. Okay. Within the ovary, ovules are present. So this is the swollen part. Okay. Also known as the swollen base. Now, arising from the placenta, there are megasporangia, commonly called as ovules. Okay. Megasporangia. Megasporangia is also known as ovules. Okay. So ovules are present within the ovary. The structure of the ovule, I've already explained to you. It consists of integuments, nucellus, and embryo sac is present within the ovules. Okay. The functional megaspore, okay, undergoes the meiotic division and develops into the female gametophyte, which is also known as the embryo sac. This also I will explain you. 4 megaspores are formed. Out of this, only one undergoes meiotic division and it forms the female gametophyte, which is also known as the embryo sac, and rest 3 degenerates. Okay. So option B, in which thalamus was mentioned, it is not the part of the gynoecium. Okay, it is part of the flower. Thalamus is the part of the flower which forms the base on which all the floral parts rest upon. Okay, this is how thalamus look like. It is a bit swollen and it is present at the base. Okay, it is a swollen part like this. Okay, this entire region is the thalamus. Okay, and here all the floral parts are present. These will be calyx. Okay, the inner to calyx you will have the corolla, which is the petals, and then you have the stamens. Okay, these are the stamens which consist of anther and the filament, and in the center you will be having the gynoecium. Okay, so this is the gynoecium. So this is the thalamus. Okay. Now option C, tapetum. Tapetum is also not a part of gynoecium. This also I've already explained. Now tapetum is the innermost nutritive layer of the microsporangium, and in option, okay, this is clear. Now in option D, stamen again was mentioned. So stamen is not the part of the gynoecium. It is a part of the androecium. Stamens are male reproductive part known as the gynoecium, and therefore the other options are wrong. So the correct option was option A. Now question number 3. Starting from the innermost part, okay, the correct sequence of parts in an ovule are, okay. The options are egg, nucellus, embryo sac, and integument. Option B is egg, embryo sac, nucellus, and integument. Option C is embryo sac, nucellus, integument, and egg. Option D is egg, integument, embryo sac, and nucellus. Alright. So again, let's read the question starting from the innermost part. Okay, the correct sequence of part in an ovule. The diagram of ovule, I've already explained you. Okay, so here the correct answer is option B. Okay, why this is correct answer? Because starting from the innermost part, the correct sequence of parts in an ovule is egg. First is egg, which is the innermost. Then egg is present within the embryo sac. Okay, embryo sac is present in nucellus. Okay, and then we have the outermost covering, which is known as the integument. So this sequence can be seen in the following. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here you can see the structure of the ovule. So here this is the chalazal end. Here you can see this is the embryo sac. So embryo sac is present in the nucellus. So this region is the nucellus. Okay, egg cell is present here. So innermost is egg cell. Then we have the embryo sac. Egg is present where? It is present inside the embryo sac. Embryo sac is present where? It is present within the nucellus. So this entire is the embryo sac. Here you can see. Okay, this is the inner integument. So two integuments are present. This is the inner integument. This is the outer integument. And later on, outer integument and inner integument, what they will form? They will form the seed coat. Okay, here is the micropylar pole. This is the micropyle, which will form the seed pore. This is the funicle, and this is the hilum here. Alright, so this is the part of the ovule. This funicle is the stalk of the ovule. So you can write a funiculus, or funicle is the stalk of the ovule. Okay, and this is the region known as the hilum. This is the region where the seeds are attached to the fruit. Okay, so this is clear. So this is the diagrammatic view of the typical angiospermic ovule. Now let's talk about question number 6. From the statement given below, choose the options that are true for a typical female gametophyte of a flowering plant. So these are the options. It is 8 nucleate. Okay, means it consists of the 8 nucleus and 7 celled at maturity. Okay, second option is it is free nuclear during the development. Free nuclear means nuclear division is happening, but there is no cell division. Okay, this is known as free nuclear condition. Option C, it is situated inside the integument but outside the nucellus. Option D is fourth option, it has egg apparatus situated at the chalazal end. Egg apparatus we have already seen is present at the micropylar end. Okay. All right. So these are the options. Option A, option B, option C, this is an option D. So you have to choose the correct options from these one. So what is the correct answer? Option C is the correct answer here. The female gametophyte or embryo sac. Okay, female gametophyte is also known as the embryo sac, is located inside the nucleus. This you already know. And this nucleus is enclosed within the integuments. Now, in majority of the flowering plants, one of the megaspore is functional, while the other 3 generate. This also we have seen. 3 repeated mitotic divisions of the functional megaspore. So there is megaspore. Okay, initially there are 4 megaspores. okay, which are formed from the megaspore mother cell. Out of these, 3 megaspores degenerate and only one undergo division. Okay, and what kind of division? Mitotic divisions. Alright, and what is formed in the end? 7-celled or 8-nucleate embryo sac is formed with the help of 3 mitotic divisions. Okay, now let's have a look at how 7-celled and 8-nucleate condition is achieved. So if this is the typical embryo sac of the angiospermic plant, here is one egg cell, these are the 2 synergid. Okay, this is the egg cell, these 2 are synergids. Then we have the polar nuclei, 2 polar nuclei in the center. Okay, and these 2 fuse together. These 2 fuse together to form primary endosperm nucleus, and then at the chalazal end we have the antipodals. So these are the antipodals. So here what you can see, there are 8 cells present. Okay, 8 nucleus present. Okay, this is 1, 2 and 3. Okay, 3 nucleus, 4th, 5th nucleus, 6th, 7th and 8th. 8 nucleus are present, but it is 7-celled. Why? Because 2 polar nuclei. So these are polar nuclei. These 2 polar nuclei fuse to form a single cell. Okay, which is diploid here. So it is 7-celled and 8-nucleate. So 6 of the 8 nuclei are organized at the 2 poles. Okay, micropylar pole or the chalazal pole. 3 cells grouped at the micropylar end forms the egg apparatus. So egg apparatus consists of what? It consists of the egg cell and it consists of 2 synergids. Okay, consists of 2 synergids. So this forms 1 plus 2, 3 nuclei and 3 at the chalazal end. The chalazal end antipodals are present. So you can say you can add 3 more. So 3 plus 3 is 6 nuclei. And in the center, a large central cell at the center has 2 polar nuclei. And this large central cell is known as the primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, which is formed by the fusion of 2 polar nuclei. So in total, you can say 3, 3 and 2. 3 nuclei are present. Okay, if you talk about the nuclei, 3 nuclei are present at the chalazal end. Okay, I'm writing CH. Then 3 nuclei are present where? They are present. Okay, here, if you talk about the chalazal end, here antipodal cells are present. Okay, and synergids and the egg cell. You can say the egg apparatus. Egg apparatus, which consists of again 3 nuclei, are present in the micropylar end. Okay, and 2 nuclei. They are present in the center. Okay, so if we add these 3, then we get 8 nuclei and 7-celled condition, because the 2 polar nuclei which is present in the center, they fuse. Now the meiotic division in the formation of the embryo sac are strictly free nuclear. Okay, in the option free nuclear was given, that is nuclear divisions are not followed immediately by cell wall formation. There is no cell wall formation after the nuclear division. So the nucleus, okay, they lie within the cells. Lot of nucleus lie within the cells because nucleus is dividing, but there is no cell formation. Alright, now the gametophyte is situated at the micropylar end and not at the chalazal end. Okay, this is the last point. Now let's talk about the question number 10. Autogamy can occur in a chasmogamous flower if, okay, so first you should know what are chasmogamous, or you can say chasmogamous flower. So chasmogamous flowers are those flowers that always remain open. they remain open means the anther and the stigma are exposed. Anther and the stigma are exposed. Okay, and what is autogamy? Autogamy is nothing but it is a self-pollination event. In this, the pollens from the anther are transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, now option A is pollen matures before maturity of ovule. Option B is ovules mature before maturity of the ovule. Okay, option C is both pollen and ovules mature simultaneously. And option D is both anther and stigma are of equal length. Okay, now let's have a look at the answer. So option number C is the correct answer here. Why? Because autogamy is a method of self-pollination in which the stigma of the flower receive pollen from the anther of the same flower. So for autogamy, both the sex organs of the chasmogamous flower should mature at the same time. Okay, then only the self-pollination can take place. Now in chasmogamous flower, okay, which opens at maturity, the pollen release and the stigma receptivity should be synchronized for the process of autogamy. Okay, so first thing is that both the reproductive part should mature at the same time, and the pollen release from the anthers and the stigma receptivity should be synchronized for the process of autogamy. Okay. Now, in such flowers, the length of the anther and the stigma plays a secondary role. Okay, so they only play a secondary role. In autogamy, for example, in case of protandry, means when pollens mature early, and in case of protogyny, where stigma matures early, this leads to cross pollination. Okay, so if the pollens mature early, okay, or if the stigma matures early, okay, then what will happen? Self pollination will not occur, but it will promote the cross pollination. Okay, so this is clear. Now moving on to the next question, question number 12. Now here you have to choose the correct statement from the following. Now clastogamous flower always exhibit autogamy. Okay, what are clastogamous flower? Clastogamous flowers are those flowers which remain close. So the anther and the stigma are not exposed. Second option is chasmogamous flower always exhibit nitonogamy. Okay, now what is nitonogamy? Okay, here what happens? The pollens from the anther are transferred to the stigma of another flower. Okay, transfer to the stigma of the another flower. Okay, but this flower is present on the same plant. This is present on the same plant. Now option number C, clastogamous flower exhibit both autogamy and nitonogamy. Option number D is chasmogamous flower never exhibit autogamy. So this is the thinking process here. Chasmogamous flowers are flowers with exposed anthers and stigma, okay, because they remain open. So the anthers and the stigma are exposed. And clastogamous flowers are flowers which do not open at all. Okay, so they remain closed. So if the clastogamous flowers are always closed, okay, so this promotes what? Self-pollination. Because the anthers and the stigmas are not exposed. Okay, so this promotes self-pollination, which is also known as autogamy. Okay, whereas in chasmogamous flower, they are open, so they can carry out the process of cross-pollination. Now here the answer is option number A. The pollination that occurs in open flowers is called chasmogamy, It is the most common type of pollination in all types of flowers, and chasmogamy is of two types again. First is self-pollination, which is also known as autogamy, and second one is cross-pollination. Okay, and cross-pollination is of two types, nitonogamy and xenogamy. Alright, so nitonogamy, this I've already told you. What is xenogamy? In xenogamy, what happens? The pollens are transferred, okay, to the stigma of another flower. Okay, this also happens in nitonogamy. The pollens are being transferred to another flower, but this flower is present on the different flower. These are present on the different plant. So this is the difference between nitonogamy and xenogamy. Okay, now so we can say that the chasmogamous flower exhibit both autogamy and allogamy. Allogamy means cross pollination. So allo means other. Okay, you can also call allogamy as cross pollination. While in clastogamous flower, the anthers and stigma lie close to each other. The flowers are open, they are not exposed. Okay, that's why it promotes autogamy. Now, when the anther dehisces in the flower buds, so what happens? The pollen grains come in contact with the stigma for effective pollination. Thus, these flowers are invariably autogamous. So here they are talking about the clastogamous flowers. Okay, so these flowers are invariably autogamous as there is no chance of cross pollen landing on the stigma because the flowers are always closed. Okay, both anthers and the stigma are not exposed to external pollens and the so there is no chance of cross pollen landing on the stigma. Now let's talk about question number 12. A particular species of plant produces light non-sticky pollen in large numbers and its stigma are long and feathery. So these modifications facilitate pollination by so here you can see the pollen which are produced are non-sticky and they are light. So first option is insect, second is water, third is wind, and fourth is animals. Now option number C is the correct answer. Why this option is correct? Because plant usually use abiotic and biotic agents to achieve pollination. Alright, what are the biotic agents? It is the wind and the water. And what is the biotic agent? It is usually animals or insects. Okay, animals such as bats, they can also carry out pollination. Okay, and some insects such as honeybees and spiders, they can also carry out pollination. So these agents are known as pollinators. Okay, but the majority of the plant use biotic agents for pollination. The pollination by wind is more common among the abiotic pollination. So if you talk about abiotic pollination, we have already talked, it can take place with the help of wind and water, but pollination by wind is more common. The wind pollination requires the pollen to be light and non-sticky. So then only it can fly in the air if it is light and it is non-sticky, so that they can be transported in wind currents. Now, they often possess well-exposed stamens so that the pollens are easily dispersed into the wind currents. So they are talking about the plants in which pollination occurs by wind. Here, the stamens are well exposed so that the pollens are easily dispersed into the wind current, and large, often feathery stigma to easily trap the airborne pollen grains. So stigma consists of some feather. It is little bit feathery. Why it is feathery? And it is large also, so that it can easily trap the airborne pollen grains. The wind pollination happens in grasses. It is most common in grasses. So these type of pollens are not pollinated by the means of other three options. There are some other options. There are some other methods of pollination. So these type of pollens which are light and non-sticky, they are not pollinated by the means mentioned below. Okay, what are these options? First is pollination by water, which is known as hydrophily. It's quite rare in the flowering plants but occurs in the aquatic plants. Okay. Next is zoophily. What is zoophily? Zoophily is pollination through the agency of the animals. Alright, animals are involved here for the pollination and this process is known as zoophily. Next is entomophily. Okay, this is the most common type of zoophily. Okay, and happens through insect. Okay, entomo is the term related to insects. Now, question number 13. From among the situations given below, choose the one that prevents both autogamy and heterogamy. Okay, so autogamy is self-pollination, heterogamy is a type of cross-pollination. Okay. Now, first option is monoecious plant bearing the unisexual flower. Monoecious plant, I have already explained you, a plant that contains both the female and the male reproductive parts. Okay. Next option is dioecious plant bearing only male and female plant. So dioecious plants are those plants that bears only the male reproductive part or the female reproductive part. Now option C is monoecious plant with bisexual flowers. Or what are bisexual flowers? The flower that contains both the male and the female reproductive part. Option D is dioecious plant with bisexual flowers. So what is the answer to this question? Option B is the correct answer to this question. Now autogamy is a method of self-pollination, this we already know, in which the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower takes place. While in heterogamy, the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Okay, so there is a transfer of pollen grains from the anther to stigma of another flower, but that flower is present on the same plant. Now, in the above condition, dioecious plant bearing only the male on the female gametes prevent both autogamy and heterogamy. Alright, and heterogamy is ecologically cross-pollination, which is supposed to be equivalent to self-pollination because all flowers on the plants are genetically identical. So you know heterogamy, okay, it is a type of cross-pollination. But what happens? You can also say it is equivalent to self-pollination. Why? Because the pollens are being transferred to the flower that is present on the same plant. Okay, and if it is being transferred to the flower of the same plant, then what happens? It is also genetically identical because both the flowers are present on the same plant. So genetically it will be similar. So you can say it is equivalent to self-pollination only. Okay, although it is cross-pollination, means the pollen grains are being transferred to another flower, but that flower is present on the same plant, okay, which is genetically identical. Now let's talk about question number 14. In a fertilized embryo sac, so here they are asking about the fertilized embryo sac. The haploid, diploid and triploid structures are, options are synergid, zygote, primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, here you have, again I will repeat this, they are talking about the fertilized embryo sac. Option B, synergid, antipodal and polar nuclei. Option C is antipodal, synergid and primary endosperm nucleus. Option 2 is synergid, polar nuclei and zygote. Now let's have a look at the answers. So option number A is correct. Synergid, you already know, is haploid. Polar nuclei, these are also haploid. Antipodals, these are also haploid. Then zygote is diploid because it is formed by the union of the gametes. Okay, this is clear. Now, since all the three cells, synergid, polar nuclei and the antipodals, these are formed by mitosis from the functional megaspore. So this also I've already explained you. There is only one megaspore. Initially there are 4 megaspore cells, 3 generate and 1 megaspore undergo 3 mitotic divisions. Okay, it will go 3 mitotic division to form the embryo sac, which is 8 nucleated. Okay, so all these three cells are haploid. Okay, but only the primary endosperm nucleus. Primary endosperm nucleus, which is formed by the fusion or the union of polar nuclei. Okay, these are formed by the fusion of the polar nuclei. So this is diploid, and later on, primary endosperm nucleus, it fertilizes with what? Or it combines with one male gamete, which is haploid. Okay, now what will be the result? A triploid cell is formed, which is known as the endosperm. Okay, so the ploidy of endosperm will be 3n. Okay, now egg cell fertilizes with the male gamete to form the diploid zygote. Okay, so first one is this. There is an egg cell which is haploid. Okay, this fertilizes with the male gamete which is also haploid, and it gives rise to a diploid zygote. So zygote is diploid. Now primary endosperm nucleus, it is a diploid secondary nucleus, okay, which fertilizes with the other haploid. So there are two male gametes produced by the pollens. One of the male gamete fertilizes with the egg cell, another male gamete fertilizes with the or fuses with the primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, and then it forms a diploid structure, okay, which is known as the endosperm. So primary endosperm nucleus forms the endosperm, which is triploid. Okay, now let's talk about question number 15. In an embryo sac, the cells that degenerate after the fertilization. Okay, so after the fertilization means union of the gametes, which cells degenerate? The options are synergids and the primary endosperm cell. Option B is synergids and antipodal. Option C is antipodals and primary endosperm cell. And option D is egg and the antipodals. Now let's have a look at the answer. So option B is the correct answer here. In unfertilized embryo sac, antipodals and the synergids are distinctly present at the chalazal end and the micropylar end. This already you know. While in the fertilized embryo sac, if we talk about the fertilized embryo sac, antipodals as well as the synergids gradually degenerate after the formation of zygote. So means after fertilization, antipodals and the synergids, they degrade. Alright, that's why correct answer was that option. Now let's talk about question number 16. While planning for an artificial hybridization, okay, involving dioecious plant, which of the following step would not be relevant? First is bagging of the female flower. Okay. Second option, dusting of pollen on the stigma. So artificial hybridization, if we talk about artificial hybridization, it is carried out by humans. Okay. Option C is emasculation. What does emasculation means? It means removal of the stamens, which are the male reproductive plants part in plants. So removal of stamens is known as emasculation. If the stamens are removed, then what will happen? Pollens will not be produced. So this is done to promote cross-pollination. Okay. Bagging also, bagging of the female flower. If the female flower is bagged, then pollen cannot sit on the stigma. Other pollen cannot sit on the stigma. So this also prevents the cross-pollination. Okay. Last option is collection of the pollen. Now, let's talk about this. The artificial hybridization. What is artificial hybridization? Is the human performed crossing of two different plants having complementary good traits in order to obtain an overall superior variety. Okay. Now, two precautionary measures in artificial hybridization are emasculation and bagging. Okay. Now, dioecious plant have the male and female reproductive organ born on the separate individuals of the same species. Okay, so this was the concept on which this question is based. So what is the answer here? Answer is option number C. So if the female parent produces unisexual flower, okay, there is no need for emasculation, because female parent obviously will produce the female flower which consists of the pistil only. Okay, so there is no need of emasculation. The female flower buds are bagged before the flowers open. Okay, these are bagged. Why they are bagged? Okay, so that the external pollen cannot fertilize the egg cell. Okay, or you can say to prevent the cross pollination. Now, when the stigma becomes receptive, then pollination is carried out using the desired pollen. Okay, so we have to produce a superior quality. So we select the desired pollen. Okay, and the flower is rebagged after that. So what we do? We pollinate the stigma with the desired pollen and then we again rebag. So this rebagging protects them from contamination by unwanted pollen grains. Alright. So if the female parent bears bisexual flowers, in this case what happens? The removal of the anthers from the flower bud before the anther diasis is necessary. So this process is known as emasculation. Okay. So emasculation, what will happen? The anthers will be removed, the stamens will be removed, and this will prevent self-pollination and this will promote cross-pollination. Alright, now question number 17. In the embryo of a typical dicot and the grasses, true homologous structures are. Now what are homologous structures? Those structures which are structurally similar and functionally different. Okay, homologous structures. They are structurally, means structure is same but functionally different. First option is coleorhiza and coleoptile. Second is coleoptile and scutellum. Third option is cotyledons and scutellum. Fourth option is hypocotyle and radical. Now here the correct option is C. A typical dicotyledonous embryo consists of two cotyledons. This you already know. Okay. Dicot means two cotyledons. Okay. While the embryos of the monocot, okay, it consists of only one cotyledon, possess only one cotyledon, which is known as the scutellum. Okay, so this is the first cotyledon, and another one more rudimentary cotyledon is known, that is known as epiblast. Okay, so this is the structure of the dicot seed. Okay, so this is what? This is a typical dicot seed. How dicot seed looks like. So here you can see radicle is present. Radicle will give rise to the root. Okay, and this radicle is protected by a root cap. So it provides protection. Then these are the two cotyledons. Number of cotyledons here are 2. Then plumule here. So plumule will give rise to the shoots. Alright, and here hypocotyle is present. Hypocotyle is a region below the cotyledons. Okay, so this is a typical dicot seed. Now this is the diagram showing you the LS of a means lateral section of monocot seed. This is the monocot. Okay, here you can see radicle is present, which gives rise to root. Root cap is present. Here additional coleorhiza is present. So coleorhiza is what? It is a sheath. Okay, it is a sheath that protects the root tip, or you can say sheath that covers the root tip. Okay, then you can see here shoot apex is present here. Coleoptile. Coleoptile is again a sheath that surrounds the shoot apex. Then here you can see scutellum, which is one of the cotyledon, and here you can see epiblast, which is known as the rudimentary. This is the rudimentary cotyledon. Okay. Now question number 18. The phenomena observed in some plants wherein parts of the sexual apparatus is used for forming embryos without fertilization is called. Okay. So the question is, embryos are formed without fertilization. What is this process called? First is parthenocarpy, second is apomixis, third option is vegetative propagation, and fourth option is sexual reproduction. So parthenocarpy, you know, is the formation or the development of fruits without fertilization. Okay, there is no fertilization, and without fertilization fruits are developed. And a growth hormone known as auxins, they can promote or they can stimulate parthenocarpy. Apomixis is the development of seeds, again without fertilization. Okay, without fertilization. Vegetative propagation, you already know, is a kind of asexual reproduction. And sexual reproduction, you already know, involves formation of gamete, formation and then fusion of the gametes. Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. So option number B is the correct answer here. So what is apomixis? So apomixis is the phenomena where seeds are formed without the fertilization. Okay, and these apomixis phenomena takes place in embryo that are genetically identical to the parental plant. Okay. Now, other options are not correct. Why they are not correct? Because if we talk about parthenocarpy, so parthenocarpy and apomixis are different phenomena. In parthenocarpy, what happens? There is formation of fruits without the fertilization. And because of these, fruits are seedless. Alright, because the ovule cannot develop into viable seeds. Okay, because you know, after fertilization, ovules develop into seeds, but there is no fertilization here. This happens without fertilization, so the fruits are seedless. Example of plant where parthenocarpy is seen is banana. Some other examples are tomato, then watermelon, okay, so these are the example of plant where parthenocarpic fruit development is seen. Now, if we talk about vegetative propagation is also known as vegetative reproduction. Is a type of asexual reproduction, okay, in which new organisms arise without production of seeds or spores. Okay. Then if we talk about sexual reproduction, it involves the formation of male and female gamete either by the same individual or by different individual of the opposite sex. So here two individuals are involved which are of opposite sex, and these two individuals form gametes which fuse together to form the zygote, and zygote develops to form the new organism. Okay. Now let's talk about question number 19. So in a flower, if the megaspore mother cell forms megaspores without undergoing the meiosis, then if one of the megaspore develop into the embryo sac, its nuclei would be, okay, options are, option A is haploid, option B is diploid, Option C is few haploid and a few diploid, and option D is with varying ploidy. Okay, so let's talk about this. The replacement of the normal sexual reproduction without the fertilization is called apomixis. So what was apomixis? We have already discussed. Apomixis is the formation of the seeds without the fertilization. Okay, so apomixis is a Greek word. Apo means without and mixis means mixing. And during apomixis, what happens? Meiosis is not involved. Okay, so this will help you answer this question. The answer for this question is option B. Now, why option B is correct? So in some species, diploid egg cell is formed without the reductional division and develops into an embryo without the fertilization. Okay, so usually the egg is haploid, but in some species, diploid egg cell is formed, means it has two sets of chromosomes. Okay, and how this diploid egg is formed? This diploid egg is formed without the reductional division, means there is no meiosis. Okay, all right, and directly from the egg cell, embryo develops and there is no fertilization. So it is an asexual litters, okay, which happens in the absence of the pollinators or in extreme environments. In some species like citrus plants, nucellular cells surrounding the embryo sac, they start dividing and develops into the embryo. Okay, so what does this mean? In some species such as citrus plants, embryo sac is present within the nucellus. Okay, so some of these cells of the nucellus, they start dividing and they develop into the embryos. This is a type of asexual reproduction. Here no gametes are involved. Gametes are only involved in sexual reproduction. Now, it occurs in the megaspore mother cell without undergoing meiosis. Okay, so what happens usually? The megaspore mother cell undergo meiosis to form 4 megaspores, haploid megaspores. Out of this, 3 degenerate and only 1 is left, and in the left megaspore, mitotic division takes place and the embryo sac is developed. Okay, so coming back to here again, it occurs in the megaspore mother cell without undergoing meiosis and produces diploid embryo sac. Okay, so if the embryo sac is diploid, all the cells within it will be diploid, and this embryo sac is formed through mitotic divisions. Okay, so that's how diploid egg is formed. Okay, so it helps in the preservation of desirable characteristic for indefinite period. Thus, it can be concluded that the apomictic species produce diploid cells. Okay, how it produces diploid cell? By mitosis, and there is no meiosis here. The haploid cell will be formed during sexual reproduction when cell undergo meiosis. Okay, and option C and D are not shown by the megaspore mother cells. Okay, now let's talk about question number 20. The phenomena wherein the ovary develops into a fruit without fertilization is called, this we have already discussed. Option A is parthenocarpy, option B is apomixis, option C is asexual reproduction, and option D is sexual reproduction. So answer to this question is option A. Option A is the correct answer here. So we already know what is parthenocarpy. So it is also derived from a Greek word. Parthenos means virgin and karpos means fruit. So parthenocarpy is the formation of seedless fruit. Okay, seedless fruit without the fertilization. The fruit developed from the unfertilized ovary are called parthenocarpic fruits. Okay, and the other options are incorrect. Okay, so answer is parthenocarpy. Other options are incorrect. Why? Because in asexual reproduction, a single individual, okay, means a single parent is capable of producing the offsprings. All right. Now, Apomixis and sexual reproduction we have already discussed in question number 8. Apomixis, again, it is the formation of seed without the fertilization, and in sexual reproduction what happens? There is formation and the fusion of the gametes. Okay, so fruits are developed which are seedless through the process known as parthenocarpy, and there is no fertilization. So these fruits are formed without the fertilization, and this process is known as parthenocarpy. Okay, and the other options are incorrect. Why? You have already seen what is asexual reproduction, what is apomixis, and what is sexual reproduction. Okay, so this was the end of this lecture. We will start with the rest of the questions in the next lecture. Thank you very much.